In this model, you can actually adjust the price if you wish to. And for those students that want to look beyond into the chapter and how they did extended evaluation, I provided some additional information here for the demand information when you're considering changes in demand. So we'll refer back to those at the end of the module. But the basic challenge is this forecast of original forecast of demand. We have a number of different inputs here: material cost per unit, inventory holding cost per unit, the stockout cost per unit, cost of hiring, the cost of firing, labor hours required per unit. That's an important new input that we haven't considered yet. In our constraints, we're going to define the labor hours required per unit and use that to calculate our regular time and the capacity in terms of we have regular time worker hours per month of 160, which we reviewed earlier, and that's the labor hours per month are going to be an important input to offset our calculation of production by the labor hours required per unit divided into the regular time per worker. The overtime cost per hour, here is that input that I mentioned. The maximum overtime hours per worker per month is going to be an important. We're going to allow is 10 worker hours per month, like 2.5 hours a week. The subcontracting cost is $30 per unit. We defined that earlier. So these are all our inputs. Now our model will utilize those in the calculation. I'm going to zero out all of the inputs here in the optimal solution. You can see the inventory that we have beginning is equal to 1,000. We are going to, these are totals here. You can see these are, or excuse me, averages. These are used to calculate some inventory calculations that are provided in the text. They're not necessarily for the assignment. The total cost, though, is simply the sum of all of this, all of these costs here in this aggregate plan cost table. So the aggregate plan costs are going to be equal to the, in the traditional way, I need to zoom this up here so you can see these. The cost of hiring is simply going to be, this inputs refers to the cost of hiring one worker. B5 is what the solution will optimize as the number of people hired. Very much like the same example, or the example I used for Namias. For a laid off, same thing. The number of people laid off multiplied by the cost of laying off per worker. Regular time. Regular time is the number of workforce multiplied by the inputs B22 times 8 times 20. So if we look at the inputs, that is going to be in the inputs, B22, regular time per hour. That's what I didn't do. I didn't select that. I'm not sure I could navigate around. Well, I'll try that again. Regular time per hour times 8 hours times 20 work days per month. Okay? So that's how we calculate our regular time. So our regular time calculation is a function of our workforce size, assuming 160 work hours per month. Our overtime is going to be the number of overtime hours times the hourly rate. So this overtime is a function of the hours. Our inventory is going to simply be the inventory holding cost in our inputs page multiplied by the, let's see if I can zoom up a little, I can't while I'm in there, multiplied